Ancient Roman feasts, more vomit, less glamour than you imagined. Close your eyes, picture the grandeur of ancient Rome, marble villas, flowing togas, the scent of exotic spices. Now, imagine a Roman feast. Endless courses of roasted boar, succulent grapes, fine wines flowing freely. Elegant citizens reclining, indulging in every conceivable pleasure. The height of civilization, right? A truly opulent, glamorous affair. Wrong. Take that pristine image, that delicate mirage of indulgence, and drop it straight into a Roman vomitorium. Because the truth about Roman feasts, they were often less glamour and a lot more puke. On the surface, they certainly looked the part, a dazzling display of wealth and power. But scratch beneath that gilded veneer, beyond the first course of peacock tongues, and you'll find a reality that was far less refined, far more chaotic, and frankly, a lot more stomach-churning than you've ever been told. These weren't just sophisticated dinner parties. They were often elaborate social battlegrounds, status symbols, and yes, sometimes literal vomit fests, where even the most powerful senators and emperors engaged in dining practices that would get you permanently banned from any modern restaurant. Ready for a reality check that'll make you appreciate your quiet takeout night and your private bathroom? Good. Let's dig into the surprisingly disgusting world of the ancient Roman feast, when the history books conveniently looked away. Let's tackle the biggest myth first, the vomitorium. You probably picture a special room off the dining hall, a designated puke palace, where Romans would politely excuse themselves to purge, only to return for more stuffed dormice. Technically, a vomitorium was an architectural term for an entrance or exit in an amphitheater, a place where crowds spewed out into the streets. But here's the gross part. While there wasn't a dedicated room for vomiting, the act itself, that was very real. Elite Romans absolutely engaged in voluntary purging during long banquets. Why? Because these feasts could go on for hours, sometimes days, with dozens of courses. To fit more exotic delicacies, more wine, more status, they needed to make room. The goal wasn't just to eat, it was to display their wealth by consuming a ridiculous amount of food. And yes, sometimes they'd use emetics, or simply tickle the back of their throats to clear the decks for another round of lamprey and garum. Imagine being at a fancy dinner party and your host casually announces they're just stepping out to make some room before returning, ready for dessert. Hygiene, even at these elite gatherings, wasn't quite what you'd expect. No individual forks or spoons. Food was often eaten with fingers, then wiped on a napkin, if you were lucky enough to have one, or a slave's arm, or even the edge of the tablecloth. Imagine a modern buffet, but everyone's just going at it with their hands, then wiping them on whatever's closest. Now let's talk about the menu. While some dishes were delicious, many were designed for shock value and display, not necessarily exquisite taste. We're talking whole roasted boars with the head still on, stuffed dormice, peacock tongues, flaming dishes. The goal was to impress, to show off how much you could spend. And the flavors? They loved strong, overpowering tastes. Their favorite condiment was garum, a fermented fish sauce made from fish guts left to rot in the sun. Think an extremely potent, fishy umami bomb. It was used on everything, sweet and savory. Imagine every dish, from your roast chicken to your fruit salad, having a powerful, pungent, fishy kick. It was less about subtle flavors, more about a full frontal assault on your taste buds. The entertainment was often as extravagant as the food, and sometimes just as barbaric. Live animals might be released into the dining room. Gladiator fights could be staged, or elaborate, sometimes cruel, practical jokes played on guests. And remember the glamour of these feasts? That glamour was built on the backs of thousands of enslaved people. They were the ones cooking, serving, cleaning up the mess, and often bearing the brunt of a drunken host's temper. The opulence for the few came at an immense human cost. And the wine. Ah, Roman wine. It flowed freely, but it wasn't the crisp, refined vintage you're imagining. Roman wine was often thick, resinous, and heavily spiced. And here's the kicker. It was almost always mixed with water. To drink undiluted wine was considered barbaric, a sign of a lack of self-control. But what kind of water? Often from shared wells, sometimes even lead pipes, or simply whatever was available. So you're not just diluting your wine. You're potentially diluting it with water that might be, shall we say, questionable. Imagine waking up after a night of fine Roman wine, not just with a headache, but perhaps a stomachache from whatever was swimming in the water you drank. And the seating! No chairs around a table. Romans reclined on couches, usually 3 to a couch, arranged in a U shape. Eating on your side, often propped up on an elbow, was the norm. While it might look comfortable, imagine trying to eat a complex meal, holding conversations, and reaching for dishes while half lying down. It wasn't exactly conducive to graceful dining. More like a prone wrestling match with a roast duck. When the feasting finally ended, the aftermath was often a horrifying spectacle. Leftover food, spilled wine, broken pottery, and, yes, evidence of all that purging. The floors, initially adorned with mosaics, would be slick with grease and discarded scraps. This wasn't just a mess. It was an invitation for rats, flies, and all sorts of unsavory creatures to join the party. The sheer labor involved in preparing, serving, and cleaning up these extravagant affairs was immense. It was a Herculean task for the household slaves, working tirelessly to maintain the illusion of effortless luxury for their masters. They bore the brunt of the Romans' indulgence, often through long, thankless hours and harsh conditions. So, ancient Roman feasts. Impressive facades, yes, but often hiding a rather unglamorous truth about daily life for the elite. From the outside, pure opulence, power, and sophistication. Inside, you'd find questionable hygiene, food designed for shock value, and an uncomfortable amount of intentional regurgitation. The next time you sit down to a quiet, clean meal with a fork, a spoon, and a private flushing toilet just steps away, remember, you're enjoying a level of comfort and civility that even the wealthiest Roman emperors could only dream of. Your average modern restaurant offers more genuine dining pleasure, and far less vomit, than the grandest Roman triclinium. But here's the real kicker. The Romans weren't stupid or lacking in culinary skill. They were doing their best with the technology and social customs available, creating a civilization that still inspires us. Their feasts were an intricate part of their culture, power dynamics, and social fabric. It just came with a side of questionable fish sauce, communal finger wiping, and a distinct possibility of your host making some room for dessert. So next time you dream of dining like a Roman, just remember, your local all-you-can-eat buffet probably offers a more hygienic and less stomach-churning experience. You're welcome.